Sorry. Thank you. Good morning and welcome everyone to this exciting announcement event on Nordic leadership to spur global uptake of private sector investments in climate before 2030 here at the Nordic Pavilion of COP26. We welcome our distinguished speakers and those attending this morning. I'm Jens Nielsen, CEO of World Climate Foundation, and will be your facilitator for this event this morning, alongside Stephanie Pfeiffer, CEO of IIGCC, Institutional Investors Group on Climate Change. We are thrilled to see that what started in 2019 at the UN Secretary General Climate Action Summit has expanded, and the Danish pension fund commitments then has expanded into the Nordics and rapidly to the UK. As a matter of fact, in 2020, the Nordic Prime Ministers announced their intent to encourage Nordic institutional investors to scale up green finance and investments by 2030 to accelerate climate action and green recovery. Following on this call, Nordic and UK asset managers are communicating a large collective financial commitment today from pension funds in Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Iceland, the Faroe Islands, and also supported by Greenland, and then also the first commitments from the UK. As part of this commitment, pension funds will also report annually on the progress of their climate investments.
This morning. Finance and the mobilization of public and private capital to support climate action will be key discussion points at COP26. If we are to achieve our climate goals, investors, corporates and governments all have a role to play in facilitating scalable investment into climate solutions. It's been wonderful to see the leadership demonstrated by Denmark and the other Nordic countries, as well as the first UK pension funds, in making commitments to invest significantly in climate solutions by 2030 and to report on progress on an annual basis. As the momentum behind net zero commitments continues to build and we look beyond the targets at the action required to get there, investment in clean energy and climate solutions will be crucial to accelerating progress and aligning with the goals of the Paris Agreement. So IIGCC is proud to be part of this significant collective commitment, and we look forward to seeing ambitious commitments from other European pension funds in future.
Without further ado, I'm honored to begin today's proceedings by welcoming the Prime Minister of Denmark, Mette Frederiksen, to the stage. Take this off.
Not sure it's working. Do we have any sound? No? Okay, then I have to speak up a bit. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome all of you. No one can be in doubt. There are two important issues at stake: ambitions and finance. And it's very clear to all of us that the necessary green transition requires massive investments. Governments, of course, we have to do our parts. We have to set the ambitious targets and commit to a new green future. But we cannot do it alone. We need private sectors on board. 2 years ago, as you have just heard, Denmark hosted an event in New York. At that time, Danish pension funds committed themselves to invest $55 billion in the green transition by 2030. And we asked ourselves, if we can raise $55 billion from Danish pension funds alone, imagine what we can achieve if more countries are to join us. That is why we decided to create the Climate Investment Coalition. We work to bring government and institutional investors together to mobilize and to accelerate investments in green transition. Today, sorry for that. Today we can confirm that several Nordic pension funds heard our call. And I am very proud that Nordic and UK pension funds are ready to invest $130 billion in total by 2030. More than $75 billion are new commitments. I hope and I think and I believe that this will send a clear message that pension funds want to play an active role in the energy transition in developed and developing countries alike. And we will not stop here. Step by step, we hope to involve new countries and new partners, because that means more funding, more investments, and we have all together already agreed that we need more action also at this COP. So gladly, now we can present some very concrete actions. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, for your remarks. I'd like to now invite all the Nordic ministers to take a photo shoot, please, over there. Thank you very much, and then we'll come straight back for the other remarks. Thank you for taking your seats again. I'm now very pleased to welcome the President of the Republic of Finland, Sauli Niinisto, for his remarks, please.
Prime Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, maybe you allow me to start by short memories from the past. I have attended several COPs. I was in Paris 6 years ago, and I want to tell you that according to my experience, there has taken place a change, actually a double change. First, I mean the spirit we felt yesterday during the opening speeches, later on discussing with each other. It is a lot more serious. There's a lot more ownership amongst the politicians than ever before. And the other change is that private sector is fully in. That's very remarkable. And we have to understand that private sector is not here because of they have demanded to be here. No, they are here with their own will. And that is most important when we talk about private sector. They are doing their job of their own will. And now they have found out clearly, I don't mean to say that this is the first time, but now we see a wide interest amongst private sector actors to be involved, to be with us building the target with those elements that private sector sees important. And that means that a kind of business is always involved. But if that's aiming to good, the result is double good. I had a possibility of meeting Sir Stern yesterday. He was very, very enthusiastic about private sector's role. Actually, he saw somehow that when private sector takes it seriously, it pushes governments to do the same. Well, as a long-standing politician, I don't fully agree with him. I think that it's also public sector's obligation to, in a way, help private sector to see the incentives that they might find in our targets. What kind of incentives? I had a possibility of discussing with a couple of Finnish CEOs, and it was amazing to hear that when they hire young people, the most interesting issue is not salary anymore, but it is what are you doing, what good are you doing in this company? And that's one incentive for the company to do good. Consumers have a role here. Their behavior is an intensive to companies, to production, to do things that people understand that they are alongside with our target. And then we have investors, shareholders, most important group. When they find out, and they have, like we hopefully hear, that their money is best invested in in a way double purposes, not only to make money, but also to make good things. With these thoughts, I welcome very much climate investment coalition. Like you said, Prime Minister, it was clever thinking that if Denmark only, Danish companies can invest 55 billion. So why not more? And I'm sure that next time we meet, we hear more than 130 billion to be invested. And that is all for the future. That is why I think pension funds fit here beautifully. Their work is for the future, so also investment for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Sauli Niinistö, President of the Republic of Finland. I'm pleased to now welcome Prime Minister of the Faroe Island, Bardur A. Steig Nielsen.
Esteemed President, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we all like goals. We need goals to make progress. But certain goals require more than bright minds and goodwill. Global carbon neutrality is an ambitious goal. It requires a broad range of initiatives, and it requires money. Governments can only do so much. To effectively engage economic drivers for change, we need private initiatives and we need private investments. One of the chief goals of this conference is to mobilize hundreds of billions of dollars towards achieving carbon neutrality and to protect communities and habitats. As part of the Climate Investment Coalition, the largest Faroese pension fund has invested millions of dollars in the green transition and has committed more to be invested before 2030. In the Faroe Islands, we live in and of nature, and so the Faroese business community is mindful of its local and global responsibility. Faroese companies recently launched the Faroese Sustainable Business Initiative. They are investing heavily in green solutions and they are reducing their emissions by at least 50% before 2030. They want to be part of the solution. They also support my conviction that building a greener future is not a sacrifice, it's an investment in current and future prosperity. I want to thank the Climate Investment Coalition for setting up this event and especially for doing such excellent work. You are welcome part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister Badur Asteit Nielsen. It's now my pleasure to welcome the Premier of the Government of Greenland, Mute B. Egele.
Thank you, and dear all, thank you for this opportunity to address this important topic. It has been said, and I could not agree more, that COP26 is a key moment for all governments to show their commitment to keep global temperature rises below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Greenland brings new policy initiatives to the table, and immediately halt for all new oil and gas licenses was decided upon this summer. We are moving forward with huge investment in hydropower and waste-to-energy projects. This will, in the next couple of years, dramatically cut our CO2 emissions. But we are also moving forward with one of the most ambitious investment initiatives in Greenland ever. Greenland holds huge untapped hydropower resources, which exceed our domestic demands many times. We have the potential to become a net energy exporter and accelerate the global green transition. But we cannot do this on our own. In the next couple of years, we will invite investors to develop these resources together with Greenland. Our plan is to open for call of proposals for a number of the largest hydropower resources we have, and estimated totally for 20,000 gigawatts. Not least for this reason, the Climate Investment Coalition initiative is very much welcomed by Nordic, the Greenlandic government. It is my hope that we, together with key institutional investors, can mobilize the necessary investment to make Greenland the world's largest green energy island. Let me finalize by saying that the Climate Investment Coalition sends a strong signal to the rest of the world leaders and the private sector here in the COP26. It showcases in essence what leadership is all about. Public and private cooperation is paramount if we shall combat man-made climate changes. And the private sector must take its share of the responsibility. This is exactly what the Climate Investment Coalition is all about, responsibility. A responsibility Nordic and the British investors has taken upon them. Greenland is looking forward to cooperating with the Climate Investment Coalition in the years to come. Thank you. Røyana.
Thank you very much, Premier of Greenland, Mute B. Egele. I'm pleased to now welcome Prime Minister of Iceland, Katrín Jakobsdóttir, forward for her remarks.
Dear colleagues, I must say, to begin with, I agree with the President of Finland. I was also in Paris 6 years ago, and you can actually sense that important change. We are not just talking about ambitious goals, we are also talking about the concrete and ambitious action that must follow those goals. And I think this is maybe one of the most important tasks we have here at this COP, to join our efforts to make real action happen in fighting the climate crisis. I'm not going to take up your time to talk about the emergencies that we see around the world caused by the climate crisis. I'm going to talk about this good and promising initiative, which we very much welcome, and thank you to Government of Denmark and the Climate Investment Coalition for taking this initiative to bring Nordic countries together so that we can actually expand green investments, because concrete and ambitious action needs capital. And therefore it's so important that we really use the capital in the right way. I think it's very positive to see the strong positive response from the Nordic institutional investors and pension funds to the CIC initiative, and also see their commitment to play a leading role in the fight against the climate crisis. And I agree with those of you who have spoken before me, a strong public-private cooperation is actually essential to mobilize the green investments, a dedicated private sector and institutional investors. Now, we share a vision, the Nordic countries, and we are also very close to the climate crisis. We see it happen in our countries, as maybe our friends from Greenland recognize very strongly, because they have such a close connection with nature. But we have that also in Iceland, where we see the glaciers receding, and we also can see the change that's happening in the marine ecosystem around us. Sorry about that. Now, the task is to ensure funding towards sustainable and green investments. But I would also like to emphasize that we must deliver a socially just transition. And that's why we must emphasize the importance of social responsibility and sustainable development in everything we do. And therefore, we are particularly happy that last year the government in Iceland, together with pension funds, financial institutions and investors, who actually hold up to 80% of all the assets in the Icelandic financial market, signed a declaration of intent for a sustainable recovery, where the parties committed themselves to keep sustainable development as a fundamental element on which they base their decisions about funding allocations, investments and lending. I would also like to mention that the Icelandic Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs has issued a funding framework for sustainable state financing, which is also a very important factor, and received a dark green rating. And this important step paves the way for more green funding and better prioritization of projects contributing to a long-term vision for a low-carbon future and adaptation to climate change. Because the climate crisis needs a whole-of-society approach, and close cooperation with the labor and trade unions, business community, the financial system, the civil society is of essence. So therefore, dear friends and colleagues, I welcome this initiative. I look forward to seeing the outcome of its work, and I'm very pleased to see the robust participation of Icelandic pension funds in this joint Nordic initiative, and I hope it will encourage other institutional investors to follow suit. Thank you.
Many thanks, Prime Minister Katrín Jakobsdóttir. I'd now like to welcome Prime Minister of the Government of Norway, Jonas Gahr Støre. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues and ladies and gentlemen. I'm really enthusiastic that there is a special Nordic event. Tomorrow we will meet in the Nordic Council of Ministers, Nordic Council setting. But I believe that the Nordic countries have something to bring to the table at the COPs. We did so in Copenhagen in 2009. We did so in Paris in 2015, and we do something now. And I believe that Katrin is absolutely right, the Prime Minister of Iceland, that doing this in a social, equitable way is a condition for succeeding, because we need to bring people along. And the Nordic countries, with governments coming and going, I'm coming, build on the model of public ambition and private investment. And we make that fit together. So I too salute this coalition. I salute that private actors come on board. They do so because they see interest in doing so, and they do so because they want to contribute. I think that is positive. I heard from the Secretary General of the UN describing one example that he had on his table. An emerging country was considering investing in renewable energy instead of going down the coal lane, building a new coal-fired power plant. So the will was there, but the president of that country was saying, I'm lacking the technology, I'm lacking the money, and I'm lacking the institutions to get it done. The downside is that the coal-fired plant is then probably going to be built. But the upside is that we have the technology, we may have the money, and we should have the procedures for doing it. And I agree with the Finnish president that we are closer to that now because mechanisms are coming together. So I would simply say that we should drive this initiative further. It is good that pension funds come on board. In Norway, we have in addition a sovereign wealth fund that operates to look after pensioners for Norwegians into the future. It's a fund that is meant to last for eternity. But if it's going to last for eternity, we have to take care of eternity. And that's why in Parliament, my government will propose that this fund should not only be a leading fund, but it should be the leading fund in managing climate risk. Because managing climate risk and financial risk comes together now as a very good business case. And it should be a long-term objective that every investment should stress test that investment against the ambition of a net zero target. And pension funds should actually live in concert with the Paris Agreement ambition. 5 years ago, that would be very out of area, actually. It would be unheard of. Now it is happening. So we have to push forward in this Nordic combination of private-public, make it social equitable, and then we are able to communicate hope that we can manage. Thank you.
Thank you to Prime Minister of Norway, Jonas Gahr Støre. Now I'd like to welcome forward Prime Minister, Government of Sweden, Stefan Löfven.
Thank you, and speaking of coming and going, Jonas just entered, I'm on my way out, but I can tell you that Sweden would have the same message no matter who would stand here. I'm very glad to be here with my colleagues, and the Nordic countries have a long history of working with sustainability, and we also promised one another that the Nordic region would be the most sustainable at the latest at 2030. And we are all together from the Nordic countries here in Glasgow with the conviction that it is possible to reach 1.5 degrees goal. We also know that it takes a large transition to do so, large transition in our society to turn this into reality. If we are to succeed, and we will, we need to involve all sectors in the society. Public actors, academia, the business community, the civil society, so we all have a part to play. And we also need to mobilize private investments. And I thank Denmark and Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen also for initiating this coalition. Also thank the UK for making this issue a priority for COP26. There is simply not enough public money available to finance our response to climate change. So we need private money as well. And the commitment from our Nordic institutional investors are very encouraging to see, and also an example of the change that we need to see. So thank you for that. And we hope that what you are doing will serve as an inspiration to others. We know that the financial market actors want to contribute to this transition, but they often lack the necessary tools and frameworks to do so. Reporting is one issue, risk management another, two important areas where we need to do more work and get the right framework in place to better support the integration of climate consideration in all financial decisions. First, we need to improve access to and quality of relevant and internationally comparable data to assess climate risks and the magnitude of climate-related effects. Second, we need to ensure that the financial sector can measure and manage climate-related financial risks. There are promising developments in this area, but a lot of work remains to do. Broad collaboration, as was mentioned before by colleagues, between governments, financial institutions, and private actors across national borders is key to move forward. It is again very encouraging to see institutional investors lead the way and show their commitment to a more sustainable economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister Stefan Löfven, and thank you to all distinguished government representatives for presenting to us this morning. It's an honor to hear from you all and feel the progress, momentum, and leadership for climate action here today. Now I'm pleased to welcome our first institutional investor representative to speak, Faroe Þórðardóttir, Managing Director, Icelandic Pension Fund.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, for me it is a great honor to be here today on behalf of the Icelandic pension funds. For some time now, Iceland's pension funds have participated actively in green investment opportunities. In partnership with the Climate Investment Coalition, they have committed to investing over $4.5 billion in green energy solutions, in addition to the $1.4 billion already invested in climate-friendly initiatives. Iceland has long been at the forefront of renewable energy solutions using hydropower and geothermal energy to heat homes and produce energy. The Icelandic pension funds have contributed funding in order to bring many of these products to fruition. The pension funds are committed to continued investment in products that use geothermal power as well as other sustainable energy sources, distribution methods, and consumption. The objective is to expedite development that promote cleaner energy for use in transportation and business activities in Iceland. Iceland's pension funds estimate that by 2030, their green investment portfolio will have reached 20% of the country's GDP, which is very high by any comparison. The Icelandic people fully support the pension fund's journey towards more ambitious climate goals Indeed, a recent survey in Iceland showed that 86% of respondents consider it very important that companies take action now to have a positive impact on our climate and natural surroundings. Our conclusion is that the pension funds and the general public in Iceland agree strongly that by increasing their focus on green investments, the Icelandic pension funds are acting in the best interests of fund members. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Thorey Thordartóttir from the Icelandic Pension Fund Association. I'm now pleased to give a very warm welcome to Bo Fohl, CEO of the Danish pension fund ATP.
Dear Prime Ministers, dear guests, thank you for the opportunity to speak to this distinguished audience. An audience that truly shows the strength of joint efforts among friends across sectors and across countries. We stand here united today on a very serious note. It has been said many times already. We know it, you know it, time is up. Now is time for action. As the pension fund for all Danes, the climate crisis constitutes both a great business opportunity and a financial risk. In ATP, we believe that the winners of tomorrow think and act green. So ATP is ready to take up the challenge and deliver our part of the solution. Our ambition is to offer 200 billion in green investments by 2030 and 100 billion in green investments by 2025. That is $25 billion by 2030. This is a significant amount that will make ATP the largest green investor in Denmark. To make real change, we want to create the biggest impact through the most significant CO2 reductions. This also means investing in green transition. So friends, let's join forces across sectors and traditional borders. Let's unite in showing the world how the Nordic countries can pave the way towards a green future. What we choose to do now matters. We have to act for our members, for our citizens, for future generations, for the planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bo Fohl, for these great remarks. I'm pleased to now present some recorded statements from some of the ambitious pension funds that are part of today's announcements, but were not able to be here in person.
Storebrand has a 25-year history of sustainable investments, where we focus on three main areas. First, we use our ownership to reduce climate and nature risk and to stimulate companies' climate ambitions. Second, we exclude unsustainable companies and heavy polluters that are not in transition. And third, we invest significantly in companies offering solutions to the Sustainable Development Goals. Actually, by 2025, investments in solutions will make up 15% of our total investments. And this is an increase of more than 50% since the end of 2020. Our aim is to reduce our total carbon footprint by at least 32% by 2025, in line with the IPCC's 1.5-degree scenario. Going forward, we rely on three factors to make sure investments truly contribute to green transition. First, the TCFD framework must become the global norm. Second, companies should pay for emissions through an international carbon tax. And third, governments need to provide incentives to stimulate climate solutions. Coalitions play a crucial role in raising the bar and achieving a net zero economy by 2050. The transition will require a massive global mobilization of capital. The Climate Investment Coalition unlocks this potential and highlights public-private cooperation at the international level. We need to see more of this in the future.
Hi, my name is Frans Lindelöw and I'm the CEO of Skandia. We all know that the coming decade will be absolutely crucial for us to achieve the goals that were set out in Paris of the net zero emissions. Skandia has already taken the first steps by deciding to double our green investment by 2025. As a natural step, we have also decided to join the Climate Investment Coalition to invest a further $5 billion by 2030. We believe the combination of public and private investment will be crucial to achieve the goals set up by the Paris Agreement, and Skandia will do everything in our power to help achieve those goals. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Glasgow. My name is Reimo Rytsölä and I'm the Chief Investment Officer of Varma Mutual Pension Insurance Company. Climate change will have a significant financial, social and environmental impacts on both current generation, but I would say especially for future generation. And that's why we as an investor need to be prepared for that. We here at Varma have an ambitious target to achieve carbon neutrality in our investment portfolio by 2035. And one of the key measures to achieve that carbon neutrality is to create climate-friendly allocation, where we invest companies and projects that actually benefit from actions to mitigate climate change, such as clean tech companies, renewable energy projects, or green bonds. Our target is that this allocation will represent 20% of our total investment portfolio by 2025. We will follow closely the outcomes of a Glasgow meeting, and I want to wish you all the best in your efforts to achieve best possible results there. Thanks a lot.
LUIV is a mutual pension company which has been active in the Faroese pension market since 1967. We all wish to leave the planet to our descendants in a better state than we received it. To achieve a sustainable world, LUIV wants to be a part of this work locally and globally. The best way we can do this is to take action together. So LUIV has joined the Climate Investment Coalition Association, which has the objective of increasing green transition investments by 2030. To be part of this mission, LUIV has undertaken to continuously increase its investment in green and sustainable transition investments by 2030. LUIV has already invested in the green transition in the Faroes and in international projects which will form part of our move to a more sustainable and greener path. Examples include transitioning investments in current energy sources to investments in greener and more sustainable sources, such as wind energy, on and offshore, solar energy, and energy from waste. LUIV is committed to increasing these investments by 2030.
Well, thank you to all the institutional investors for their commitments and actions. Next, I'd like to welcome Kent Damsgaard, who's the CEO of Insurance and Pension Denmark and will give some remarks on the Danish pension industry's role in starting this global climate investment wave with the Climate Investment Coalition. Welcome, Kent.
Dear Prime Ministers, dear guests, When I was born back in 1977, reportedly the same year as the Danish Prime Minister, modern electricity producing wind turbines did not exist in Denmark. 2 years later, the Danish producer Vestas entered the market, and today they have installed turbines in around 80 countries across 6 continents. But in the urgency of tackling the climate crisis, we do not have another 40 years to invent the next adventure similar to the wind power adventure. We need to act much faster and be more ambitious. With the pledge of $130 billion, the Nordic countries and the UK are taking the lead in financing the green transition. As one of the final speakers today, I'm happy to share some great news on the development of the 2019 Danish Pension Fund $55 billion commitment, only 2 years after our Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen announced the pledge at the UN in New York. The Danish pension funds have invested $19 billion into the green transition. That is more than 1/3 of the $55 billion pledged. And on that note, I would like to express my thanks to the Danish Prime Minister for the cooperation between the pension industry, the private sector, and the government. The Danish cooperation is pioneering, and I'm happy and proud to see that the Danish commitment has caused a ripple effect, inspiring other Nordic countries and the UK to follow. And hopefully, this can lead the way for even more commitments and investments into the green transition. And with the pledge today of $130 billion commitment, we are aiming for a bigger momentum. I hope we will be able to develop and expand further on this successful cooperation in the coming years, not only in Denmark, but across the Nordic region and the rest of the world, and to create globally, the right regulatory framework to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken, for your remarks and all the great work that you're doing to lead the way for climate investments and tracking these investments. Thank you to all the speakers from government and the private sector for your great support and your suggestions for going on forward together. We look forward to the next years to come and will be so pleased to work with all of you. We need to close the event now, but we first will welcome the media who would like to ask any questions to please stand by the media wall over there, and welcome the excellencies present and wanting to answer any questions to please join them there. We welcome all participants to coffee and pastries and to connect. Thank you very much. Thank you.